Hello, it's Anna Hill here with the Farming Today podcast. Today, are farmers who need to stay profitable switching away from food production? And the number of visas for UK seasonal farm workers is announced, but the NFU says it needs more detail for the next 4 years.
If we actually want to grow horticulture industry, we can't do it with less people. What I don't want is for the visa allocation to effectively put a ceiling on how far the industry can expand.
We'll have more on that a little later. First, how can farms stay profitable? If the answer is by providing something other than food, what are the implications for domestic food production? The former NFU president, Dame Minette Batters, has delivered her review on farm profitability, and it'll be published in the next couple of weeks. And yesterday we heard a warning that UK food production could drop by almost a third by 2050. The all-party parliamentary group on science and technology in agriculture said a worst-case scenario could leave almost a quarter of farmland being used for other purposes, such as solar farms, housing, biofuels, flood mitigation or wildlife habitats. The Conservative MP for Mid-Norfolk, George Freeman, chairs the group and told us,
farmers are closing up. They're getting out of business. Why? Firstly, very generous solar subsidies. You can't blame farmers for that. Secondly, housing targets have gone up 50%. So we're seeing very large-scale use of agricultural land converted to housing. We're seeing farmers get out of the business of farming and growing food. And I do think we're heading for a situation where, with Russia already declaring an asymmetric cyber war on us, disrupting, we're seeing lots of attacks on our supply chains, we could easily see in the next few years a very serious food security crisis.
George Freeman MP. Well, one farm on the outskirts of Norwich, which suffered losses this year after drought ruined their arable crops, has decided to embrace the challenge of keeping afloat by switching away from food production. Charlotte Gurney joined White House Farm when she married into the Gurney family, which has been farming in Norfolk for hundreds of years. Coming from a recruitment background, she could see opportunities there which are more about people than food.
So when we initially took over the farm about 10, 12 years ago, it was a fruit farm. And so those were the initial stages. And then from there, we very gradually built up a farm shop, a butchery, cafe, and a whole host of other businesses in what were dilapidated farm buildings. And now they range from hairdressers to dance studios, doggy daycare. And most recently, we've just put in an indoor ice rink into our grain barn. So quite varied.
But what has happened? What have the challenges been that have seen you encourage other diversifications which are nothing to do with food production?
The input costs and the fuel and the fertilizer and the labor, all these prices have risen so very much that they have pushed us to, and the bad weather, of course, with the no rain in the early spring. We've had an absolutely appalling harvest like so many other people this year, and it's put us in a very weak position for next year. And it is forcing us in a way. We are so incredibly lucky with our location that it seems that now is a very good time to have a go at something else.
And do you grow any food on the farm now?
We do still grow our top fruits, so our pears and our apples, and there are some cherries left, but most of those top fruit go to our cider producer, who is based on the farm as well, and he sells that cider in our shop.
Yesterday on the programme, we heard the MP George Freeman talk about farmers being tempted to give land over to things like solar farms or housing to make money. Have you done that yet?
We haven't done that. We're not best placed for something like that, in all honesty. And I can see why it's extraordinarily tempting when the government are offering those sorts of advances, when farming is just so difficult and there are so many adversities.
Could your farm be profitable on just food production alone?
It's depressing, but I really don't think it could work. The price of everything pushes these margins. They are so slight. The cost of fertilizer went through the roof with the Ukraine war. There's so many things, so many expensive components that mean that I don't think it would be possible for us to survive on food production alone.
Is that a big regret?
Of course. And I come from a family that have been growing fruit and veg on the same land for so many generations that it is a big regret. And it makes me terribly sad that that knowledge that's been passed down over the years is currently frittling away. And we won't have that knowledge going forward into the next generation. And we won't have the resources to keep growing things locally and be able to provide our local community with the food that they should be buying locally.
Charlotte Gurney from White House Farm. Now, all this week we're talking about seeds, the breeders that produce and develop them, and the farmers that rely on them. Farmers buying large volumes of seed could also expect a suite of services to go along with their order: agronomy, research and development, and environmental consultancy. But there are smaller scale seed businesses as well, which don't have some of these bells and whistles, but do act as a kind of community hub for their customers. Will Shepherd set up his business in Lincolnshire some 13 years ago. Mary Ward-Lowry has been to meet him.
You can't miss Will Shepherd's small seed business in Rugby. It's based in a pair of warehouses under the old windmill. Small seed means specialist environmental stewardship mixes, cover cropping, wildflowers and forage mixtures, rather than, what would you call it, big seed? There's no wheat, barley or rapeseed here.
Let's have a look. So what have we got here? This is Evora, so this is a smooth stalk meadow grass. So that would go in one of our sort of longer term grass layer meadow mixtures, sort of a historic pasture. We also use that in some of our wildflower mixes.
And where does the seed come from that you sell?
So we try, where possible, to sort of use it from the UK. It would be a lot cheaper to use French wildflowers. The growing conditions are a lot better, but they're not British native.
And you grow some of your own, I think?
Yeah, we do. The only way that we could truly control where they were coming from would be to sort of be involved in the production of them. We try to source British native grasses.
And you do import some
we do, yes.
seeds as well?
Yeah, so we import perennial ryegrasses that we use in our more intensive ryegrass-based mixtures. Again, in Europe, they just have a better climate for growing it.
And what are the challenges in importing seed?
Oh, gosh. It used to be easy, didn't it? Put the order in and it would turn up. More recently, it's sort of delays that we've had. You'll place an order, and what perhaps would have taken 10 days to get to you can now take sort of a month because of the extra paperwork that has to be involved with it. Phytosanitary certificates, they need to be checked at the border. So we have to be able to prove where the seed came from, what we've done with it, and where it's gone. So what have we got here? So this is perennial ryegrass. This is just an intermediate perennial ryegrass, so this is a nice easy one. The lot number here is this code here.
Yeah.
And that's a unique code. I mean, in the office we sort of refer to them as birth certificates. Should ever there be a problem, we can type it into our system and it will flag up and say, yep, we've had 6 tons of it and it came in 25 kilo bags, for example, and then that says where it's gone.
Can you tell me how you store the seed?
The vast majority of the seed that we sell is just warehouse stored, safe and dry. Some of the wildflowers we keep refrigerated, and that's just to keep them in a dormant state. The certified seed, it has to come with a germination percentage. Around 90% is normal. In the year that it was packaged, 90% of that seed is guaranteed, if you will, to grow. We have to be careful that we're doing stock rotation correctly, so the guys in here rotate the stock regularly. We know what we should be using first, and then that goes into our mixtures first, and that just guarantees that we're always selling with the best possible seed.
Will says the new SPS agreement with Europe announced in the summer hasn't fed through far enough to cut red tape for his customers yet. But the abrupt closure of the sustainable farming incentive earlier in the year has had a big impact.
Sort of week, 10 days after that, we were having phone call after phone call. We struggled to keep up with the amount of phone calls we were getting with people that just wanted to they were lost in a sense that the rug had been pulled. Some of them had budgeted their rental, if you will, to include an SFI payment, and then suddenly it wasn't there anymore.
And how does it impact on your business then? Are people are just not buying those?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And normally it would be a very busy time, sort of mixing autumn sown stewardship mixtures. So we are still dealing with people that have existing agreements, but the new entrants, obviously there aren't any. So it has been, it has been a little bit quieter this autumn. That is true to say.
Seed merchant Will Shepherd. The government's announced the number of agricultural seasonal workers' visas allowed for the UK for next year. It's slightly lower than the current allowance, but the National Farmers Union has welcomed the announcement, saying it's been made in good time so farms can organise recruitment ahead of next year's harvest. Martin Emmett is chair of the union's Horticulture and Potatoes Board.
Next year, we will have an allocation of 41,000 seasonal worker visas for horticulture. That's down from 43,000 this year. And in poultry, it will be 1,900, down from 2,000.
That is a dip, isn't it? Does that matter?
In the case of next year, probably not. I think we were using something around about 39,000 visas in horticulture this year. I'm more concerned about going forwards, because if we actually want to grow horticulture industry, we can't do it with less people. We need to have a dynamic approach which looks at getting some growth and getting the right number of people here.
What are you thinking then for 2027? Are you going to then be asking for that number to go up significantly?
Too early to say, but the government indicated that it wanted to have a 5-year programme. And incidentally, we've waited since February for details of this 5-year programme. The Secretary of State at the time, Steve Reed, told us at the NFU conference in February that we would get a 5-year rolling programme, but it's only now, with a new minister, that we've got the confirmation we were looking for. We would like to talk about a 5-year programme where we could be assured that there would be availability of work from overseas, but we need to do it in a much more dynamic manner. What I don't want is for the visa allocation to effectively put a ceiling on how far the industry can expand.
Will this be enough for farmers who rely on seasonal labour? Because they have been facing pressure for years, haven't they, with shortages of labour?
Yes, they have. And of course, farmers are using every sort of mechanism available to try and boost their recruitment, both internally from within the UK market and also from overseas. We're seeing, a lot more extensive use of apprenticeships, for example.
Does more need to be done there to encourage people to join agriculture as workers?
Yes, I mean, the industry, I think, is doing what it can. What we do need to do is find more young people that are attracted to work in the sector, and that does need promotion. It's not just unique to the UK. We're finding that this is the case in the Netherlands and in Belgium too. Other parts of the EU have similar sorts of schemes because they are currently recruiting from outside the EU.
You've asked for a 5-year plan. Is that coming? Has the government committed to that?
So DEFRA and the Secretary of State committed to a 5-year plan back in February. It was a key announcement at the NFU conference. We've been consistently at the NFU asking for a rolling 5-year programme. What we have at the moment is only an announcement for numbers for next year, so no detailing about how we would actually see those numbers develop over the next 5 years.
So basically that promise from Steve Reed hasn't actually been ticked off. It hasn't actually been defined.
It's not been defined, no. Literally, as soon as that statement was made, we were looking for the detail. And I have to say it's thanks to the new minister, Dame Angela Eagle, who I did meet on farm last month, that she's listened very carefully to what we said. And we do now have at least some confirmation for next year, which is absolutely urgent. But we do need to get into more detail about the next 5 years.
Martin Emmett from the NFU. Well, we asked DEFRA about that 5-year plan. It referred us to its response to the independent review by John Shropshire into labour shortages in the food supply chain, which says, recognising the need for farmers and growers to have time to invest in automation and move away from a reliance on migrant labour, the seasonal worker visa route has been extended for 5 years, from 2025 to 2029. Further detail of the number of visas available for 2026 to 2029 will be set out later this year. That's all from us today. I'm Anna Hill. The producer was Rebecca Rooney. Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.